A political storm in a peaceful Hunter town. Dungog Mayor Glenn Wall is being forced out of the top job after a vote of no confidence.
He's our mouthpiece. He has privilege that we don't have with various members of parliament and ministers and the media, and he's not popularly elected. We appoint him, so we would have thought that it's appropriate for him to represent those views for us.
Those views are over Tilligra Dam. Various council resolutions staunchly oppose the $400 million project, but the majority of councillors believe the mayor hasn't represented that position well enough.
I believe I represented the community to the very best of my ability. People may choose not to believe so, but I sleep very well at night.
While Mayor Wall supports aspects of the dam project, he says when representing council, he's always taken a bipartisan approach.
I made a determination myself personally after I'd assessed the environmental assessment report, and when compared to some of my peers, they chose not to do that. So I believe I've put myself in better stead than they have.
He has always understood and indicated to me, and I know to the Upper Hunter member, George Souris, who is also supportive of him, that he believes that this is a merit-based planning assessment process.
There's no doubt that Tilligra Dam is unpopular here in Dungog, and the mayor seems to be the first political casualty, but there could be more victims come the March state election. Kate Mitchell, NBN News.
You know it's election time when your local member dons a hard hat and turns a sod. In this case, it was Jill Hall, the project a $12 million medical centre at Charlestown for more than 100 practitioners.
So there'll be just about every type of medical service that you need, you'll be able to obtain here.
While it's being privately funded, the doctors hope they can secure a federal infrastructure grant. But with Labor holding a near 15% margin in Shortland, there are fears the electorate's simply not on the party's radar.
Over a long period of time there could have been more done here, but because people aren't willing to change, then basically it's always going to be as is.
They're always pretty sure of getting back in all the seats, so they don't worry too much about spending too much money up around this area.
The Greens candidate, of course, agrees.
It's been a safe Labor seat for too long, and really nothing much has changed since the last election.
I don't think that you can never take anything for granted. If you do that, then you're not a good member.
In her defence, Ms Hall points to her biggest achievements, including the Fernley track extension.
I went to the people of Shortland promising them that the Belmont Medicare office would be reopened. It was closed in 1997 by the Howard government. That's happened.
Supporters say she's a quiet achiever, perhaps too quiet in the case of some voters.
And I was just wondering if you know who Jill Hall is?
Not really, no.
Jill Hall? No, I don't actually.
I think they need to get more out there and tell us what's going on, and a bit more in the community.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
They say you should never ask a woman her age or her weight, but it seems there are exceptions.
Well, what we're trying to do is prevent weight gain that often happens in the late 40s for women.
They call it the 40-year stretch. Researchers say body changes at menopause can often lead to an attack of the munchies. An imbalance of estrogen sees fat deposited around the waist, and the apple shape that follows is hardly something a woman desires or is good for their health.
There are lots of factors that contribute, and we know about those factors, but what we don't know about is how we can prevent the weight gain, because no one's ever tried to do this in Australia before.
Researchers at the University of Newcastle need help to find a solution.
I've not got a weight problem, but I have recognised in lots of my friends that as they get older, they tend to gain weight, and I guess I just wanted to stop that happening in me.
They're not after stick figures for their study, but real women ready to make a difference, so that the change of life is perhaps a little more comfortable in the future. Nat Wallace, NBN News.
I think I've trained harder than ever, plus I've got good sparring, which has been a problem before, but I've got really good sparring for this one, so I feel prepared.
By its own admission, Maitland has exceeded its own expectations. With 4 rounds remaining, the club has already won more games than it budgeted for. Further win bonuses would have pushed the club over the salary cap, but the Pickers' decision to reduce player payments has been accepted by the real NRL.
They've put in amended contracts into the office, which we asked for. They are now playing for loss bonuses for the rest of the season.
The board is reducing the salary cap to $160,000 next season and is preparing new payment guidelines. Clubs will also come under further scrutiny in relation to the player rating system, with the teams that finish higher on the ladder becoming less able to secure star signings. Still on league, and the champions have been decided in the Newcastle Knights all-schools knockout. Eleebana and St Paul's at Gateshead claimed the trophies in the open divisions, while Singleton smashed St Peter's Maitland in the under-14s, and Whitebridge High held out St Peter's in the under-15s. Whitebridge made a great start, with Adrian Delors stretching out close to the line. Forward Alex Everett responded for the boys from Maitland, but Whitebridge held on to win by 8. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
With the pull of 2 chords, Hunter Taife's new Hair and Beauty Academy was officially open. The state and federal governments spent a combined $16.5 million upgrading various facilities at the Taipus. New South Wales Education Minister Verity Firth says the investment will improve the Hunters' skills base.
We also know that when you can give people training and education opportunities close to home, it means not only that more people access that training, but also that they tend to find local employment opportunities, so it helps keep people in the Hunter region.
The academy's decked out with enough modern amenities to make any commercial outlet jealous, and that's attracting a record number of students.
They're really good. I love it here. Heaps better than the last TAFE, so it's a bit exciting.
It's fantastic here. It's just beautiful, actually. Top of the line.
Here, they get to work with real clients, and the federal member for Newcastle just might join the list.
I don't know about the feathers on the eyes, but I'd love to come here and get my hair done.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
At the moment we're looking at the individual incidents that have happened in this area lately. Each of those are separate and unrelated incidents, and we are looking at those, and as a part of that what we're looking at is the availability of guns to people who carry out these crimes and incidents.
More buyback schemes, is that part of the move forward?
The decision in relation to buyback schemes doesn't come from a person.
It seems these celebrations were a little premature. Members of the Sweetwater Action Group toasted their success back in October after the Huntley Newtown development was shelved. 9 months later, it's been revived.
If people thought we were going to go away, there's no way on God's green earth that we're going to give up just yet.
It's very clear to everyone except the New South Wales Government and the developer that a new city for 20,000 people is poorly placed in Branxton.
The development hit a wall after a land swap agreement was ruled illegal. Now that aspect of the plan is off the agenda, meaning no conservation land will be set aside.
Before we were actually getting land locked away into national park or wilderness or whatever. Now that's not there.
And second time around, there's still more controversy. There are now questions about an $800,000 application fee discount given to the developer by the state government.
To give the developer a discount of that size really begs the question, is the New South Wales Government and the Planning Minister objective?
But that has been put down to the fact some costly assessments have already been carried out.
There would have been some of those processes that have already gone through the analysis of the data, etc. Would there be need to do that if there's no change to the development?
Kate Mitchell, NBN News.
The regional strategy being compiled by the state government will review everything from roads and rail to cycleways and taxis. It'll engage local politicians, councils and community groups.
It's about bringing everyone together, saying where the growth's happening, why it's happening, what we need in place.
Stakeholders say they want local solutions to local problems, and yesterday gave Keneally government representatives their wish list.
We need to have a transport system that reflects the land use pattern. The current system is out of date and does not do that. We need more resourcing to improve the frequency and reliability of public transport.
The feedback will guide a draft strategy expected to go on public display by the end of the year. But the $64 million question remains: just how will the strategy be funded? Yesterday's workshop provided no answers, only this.
We're doing a plan. The money's up to the politicians.
There's concern the document will end up in a pile alongside 43 other transport plans which have been shelved since 2005, including 2 formulated by the 5 Hunter councils.
We're very pleased to hear that both of those documents are on their literature search and they'll be using them.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
It was the perfect opportunity to chew the fat with an officer and make new friends. These sorts of barbecues run by police and the NRMA will be held across the state to get neighbours talking.
It's a very simple concept. If you have very strong relations and good communication between neighbours, neighbours can watch out for each other.
The concept was born from the results of an NRMA study which found Novocastrians aren't as friendly with their neighbours as people elsewhere in New South Wales, and that could be costing the area dearly. Bureau of Crime Statistics show that last year an average of 12 homes were broken into every day across the Hunter.
Most burglaries happen when no one's home, so a trusted and reliable neighbour is certainly a great deterrent for thieves. So we're encouraging people to get out, get to know your neighbours and make your neighbourhoods safer.
Newcastle Police believe the Good Neighbour Barbecues program will help reduce the region's break and enter and vandalism rates.
We have a number of initiatives, many initiatives in relation to crime prevention, crime detection and putting offenders before the courts. This is just another tool for us to use in our endeavours in that regard, and it is very welcome.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Following the embarrassing loss to the Raiders, this was the last thing Rick Stone needed before the long trip to Townsville.
Adam McDougall's out. His ankle is the main issue for him, and he hasn't responded in a short turnaround. He won't be coming. Dan Toller's also got a cork in the thigh.
With Corey Patterson already sidelined, a range of fresh faces now come into the squad, including Joel Edwards, Con Mika, Mark Tafua and Cameron Serraldo, while the coach is yet to choose between Cooper Vuna and Wes Nagama as a replacement for McDougall. Stone says the players have been humbled by the hammering they received in Canberra, but believes the short turnaround provides a perfect chance for redemption.
We understand that if we keep dwelling on last week too long, it's going to affect how we perform this week. So we've well and truly moved on from that, and looking forward to the game on Saturday.
Having arrived from the Cowboys less than a month ago, Antonio Kafusi is itching to return to North Queensland. But it's not just the chance to see his wife and daughter that has him excited. The big forward has a point to prove to the side that let him go, and he's been doing his best this week to give his new coach and teammates some insider knowledge.
I'm here with the Knights now, and I've got these boys, and the only mates I got on the field when I'm playing is the guys wearing the same jersey, and that's my job. Going up there this week.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. They've been leading lights during the pre-season, and today it became official. Michael Bridges is the new Jets captain and Lubo Milicevic will be his right-hand man.
Two boys that have played at the elite level, that have done most things in the game, and we're certainly proud to have them in the club.
Bridges has made no secret of his desire to captain the side since the departure of Matt Thompson.
There was a few of the boys obviously stepped forward and put their name forward for the honour, and like you said, thankfully I've been given that role.
His new deputy was quick to sing his praises.
I think at this point in time, Bridge is ideal. He's great on and off the pitch, and the boys really look up to him, and this way he can be the serious one and I can actually crack jokes.
Once an outspoken critic of the club, Milicevic is now a vital member of the leadership group. He believes the Jets are as stable as they've ever been.
I think it's evident even in training and the games we've played so far. I think as a unit we're even better this year, and it's really enjoyable to be around the boys and around the club at the moment.
The team heads to Port Macquarie tomorrow to prepare for Sunday's trial against Brisbane. Several players are racing to be fit for the first A-League game against Adelaide on August 6, while Kiwi international Jeremy Brockie is in danger of missing out because of a knee injury.
Tests have shown that he's got a little tear, so he might have to miss about 2 weeks.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
All the best tales have a goodie and a baddie, and in this one, Bonza's your villain.
I'm the best looking and strongest and fastest man you're ever going to meet in your life.
Bonza and Jester the Clown are among the wrestlers who'll flex their muscles in the latest incarnation of the sport on Saturday night. The feature spectacle, a 6-man tag team bout.
You'll get guys that prefer to do things off the rope, so they tend to be high flyers, and the bigger guys will do stuff on the mats.
But it's not all about the guys. Harley Wonderland, as she's known, has been throwing competitors around the ring for almost 3 years. On Saturday, she'll wrestle for the inaugural Women's Showtime Alliance title.
Saw the other women doing it and thought, well,
why can't I do that? And it turns out I can.
And believe it or not, we're told this high-flying action is totally unscripted.
It depends on the atmosphere that you have coming back at you. Obviously, if the crowd's a little bit more involved, you can then become a bit more involved, and you bounce off the crowd and each other.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
It seems there's just no stopping determined bike thieves. A crime syndicate is suspected of being behind recent thefts in the Hunter. Now there are repeat attacks. Retailer Graham Boyd says last night would-be thieves were caught in the act at a Maryland home.
These guys are brazen. They're just going back to the same houses. They know that people have replaced their bikes and they're doing it again.
On Tuesday night, these two dirt bikes worth $13,000 were taken from a home in Highfields, and the trend isn't confined to the Hunter. Last Sunday, 7 quad bikes were stolen from a remote property near the Gold Coast.
They knew the layout of the land. They knew somewhere where they could push the bikes and load them onto trucks.
Locking bikes in garages and bolting them to cement floors are 2 security measures that don't seem to be working. Mr Boyd says at minimum, high decibel alarms are needed.
The most extreme things I've heard of is guys actually taking the wheels out of their bikes, so they have to be carried, not can be wheeled away.
Madeline Bond, NBN News. The news was easy to digest at the Hunter Valley Research Foundation's Business Breakfast. The release of a 2009 Wellbeing Survey, along with the June quarter's economic indicators, revealed the global financial crisis has had a limited impact on the region. The survey found last year 13% of Hunter residents couldn't afford reasonable housing, while 11% couldn't pay a bill on time.
The people who were employed on a part-time and casual basis were more likely, statistically more likely, to be reporting affordability problems with key necessities such as the ability to pay a power bill or a water bill.
That's now turned around to the point where a record 317,000 people are in jobs. The June quarter results also revealed that compared to the same time last year, household spending is stronger, with building approvals up 126% and vehicle registrations up 8.6%, while business profits and investments are also stronger. But after an initial recovery, business and consumer confidence have taken a hit in the past few quarters. The winding down of government stimulus, along with interest rate rises, are being blamed. But there is cause for hope on that front.
We don't think there's going to be interest rate rises over the remainder of, or certainly over the next couple of months.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Scenes such as these motivated Grant Godfrey to help young drivers. 3 years ago, he started the Crossroads Road Safety Program at Singleton High, and despite initial mixed reactions, students are getting the message.
We found that we got some quite significant change in their attitude to, being a bad driver and on the other hand, being a good driver. So that sort of spurred us on to try and expand the program.
The responsibility of convincing Year 11 pupils that dangerous driving has consequences rests with trusted teachers.
People that you know and, like you said, you feel comfortable with, it makes you feel a lot more open. You can be more open with them and, yeah, it makes a big difference.
Police and ambulance officers are also involved, giving first-hand accounts of road tragedies.
Spoken to them about the family side of things after the crashes. Delivering death messages.
Students are also taught car maintenance to give them the best preparation for getting behind the wheel.
For me, I know I'm a new driver, and I do think about the consequences all the time since I've been exposed to this kind of program.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
A warm send-off on an otherwise cool day for the Knights, as they look to turn around last weekend's performance in Canberra for themselves and their fans. Cameron Ciraldo doesn't carry the burden of that loss, rather the expectation to help lift the team down on confidence.
Very excited. I suppose everyone in the team is very keen to play and make up for what happened last weekend.
Although that's the overriding motivation for many, Ciraldo knows this match offers him a chance to cement his spot back in the side after fearing he'd lost it for good.
I suppose anyone coming into the team that's had a few weeks off or is trying to get a spot just has to bring enthusiasm and a good attitude.
It's going to be a big game from Cameron. We think he'll just come back a little bit fresher and a bit hungrier.
The coach is also keen to see how latest recruit Antonio Kafusi handles his return to North Queensland just 3 weeks after he left the Cowboys to join Newcastle.
I think he'll be out to prove a few people wrong when he gets his chance on Saturday night.
The Knights arrived in Townsville late today, but the final makeup of the side won't be known until an hour before kick-off tomorrow night. Jim Callanan, NBN News.
I know it's not one of the courses I don't think suits anyone in particular. I don't think it suits a long hitter or a short hitter. I think the short hitters have as much chance here as the bombers.
I can say it's just been a wonderful association.
And I decided that it would be a good change in direction to get into my own business rather than working for the corporates.
Owning a home in the Hunter is becoming increasingly difficult. House prices have risen by 12% over the past year, and the historically low interest rates and increased first home buyers grants we experienced during the global financial crisis are long gone. According to the Hunter Valley Research Foundation's Regional Market Outlook, there's tough times ahead.
Getting towards record on affordability and problems for first home buyers getting to the market, and we're seeing that in terms of they've withdrawn from the market in quite a serious way.
Homes in the Hunter are now the fourth most expensive in regional Australia, with the median house price sitting at $355,000. Rising interest rates and signs that price growth will soften are scaring away investors, and that's contributing to a housing shortage. The region's rental vacancy rate sits at a mere 1.8%, and with no sign the rental squeeze will ease, rents are tipped to soar.
Rents are nowhere near as high as they theoretically should be for where prices are, so renters have been getting away with relatively low rents for quite a long while.
Madeline Bond, NBN News. From product demonstrations, decking to doors, and some seriously extravagant displays, there was something for everyone at the home show. But no doubt the star attraction was Don Burke, who had some novel advice.
Don, what are some of the big tips that you'll be giving away at the home show?
Madeline, there's something you need to engulf in your life. Poo. And we have a 5-in-1 poo here today. And of course, when you do that, you're growing stuff organically, which means you don't die as quickly.
Thousands passed through the show's doors with more than 400 stalls set up.
I thought it was great. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff here.
And actually shook hands with Don Burke.
And Australia's favourite gardener has promised to return.
I love this area. If you said to me, where do you put your finger on Australia and know that you're touching the heart and soul of the country, the real Australians, Dinky Di, Ridgy-Didge, Hunter area, absolutely no question. I love the place.
Adrian Tobin has been watching our top Ironmen and women cross the border for years, enticed to compete for Queensland by cashed-up Gold and Sunshine Coast clubs.
A lot of the good competitors that have gone to Queensland that compete for Queensland clubs are actually from New South Wales. I did it myself. I trained on the Sunshine Coast for 2 years.
To stem the tide, he's assembled a group of exciting young prospects from Sydney, the Central Coast and the Hunter.
The key here is creating a team environment that everybody's happy in, and if they continue to get the results that they need to get, well, they're going to stay.
Surf clubs often concentrate on individual disciplines, whereas Adrian's program focuses on the Ironman.
You've really got to perform to be in the group, and he has high expectations, and so obviously everyone's training hard.
With the water temperature at around 15 degrees, this new breed is proving it's not just a summer sport, as they prepare for events such as the Aussie Titles and the Coolangatta Gold. 3 are also gunning for a place in the Nutrigrain Ironman series, including 16-year-old Daniel Booth from Caves Beach, who says the program is a perfect fit.
My father was my coach for a long time, and then this squad came around and I thought I'd be involved, and yeah, he's really motivated me to do my best.
The government says it's looking at the big picture.
$140,000 for the feasibility study to look at the next steps for developing a world-class football facility right here.
It'll be mainly for our kids, but with an expected $7 million price tag, the grown-ups won't be left out.
8 new futsal facilities in Wallsend and a world-class football field.
We will work hand in hand with the FFA to ensure that this facility is FIFA compliant.
And that's a key talking point for the Minister. Tomorrow, she'll meet with FIFA heads in Sydney. Her goal, to put Australia's 2022 World Cup bid in the back of the net.
As this project unfolds, we'll be able to work to see the role that Newcastle and particularly Wallsend can play in hosting world-class events.
While supporters of the Roundball Code are happy, others are asking, where's their money?
Well, I'm a league fan myself, but I think we can all play more than one sort of fiddle.
But football is clearly scoring at the moment. 80% of our kids play, and that's a big target group nearing an election.
And when we have young people who are as enthusiastic about their sport as the youngsters we're seeing out here today, we want to make sure that they've got world-class facilities to play it on.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.
The Knights' spirit was just as banged and bruised as some of the players following last night's game. Richie Fayoso will need a scan on his injured neck, while James McManus is facing around 6 weeks on the sideline after suffering a Grade 2 medial ligament tear. Isaac de Gois needed stitches in his mouth after this tackle. He returned to the field only to suffer a slight hamstring tear. Ben Rogers is also heading to the specialist after being carried from the field with a serious ankle injury. The coach couldn't hide his disappointment after what had been a spirited comeback.
It was a pretty brave effort to keep fighting, and we had to shuffle the deck chairs a little bit, but yeah, it's always a bitter way to lose.
This ball just a little right of that hole. Anything left and short is going to kind of come back down and away from the hole.
Pretty mechanical when he played on the PGA Tour, trying to make perfect swings.
Not about 12 feet, moving from his right to left, straight up the hill.
No, that's a beautiful four there from the young Australian after having to lay up. Easiest hole of the golf course today. Playing it.
It's just made my brother and his family, they're just holding it together, I suppose.
When you're trying to hang on to a marginal seat, hit the road. According to a new survey commissioned by the NRMA, 84% of voters rate road policies as more important than education, climate change and taxation. So perhaps it's no surprise that Bob Baldwin and the Shadow Transport Minister made this election promise today.
An incoming coalition government will spend $71 million on 5 significant road projects in the electorate of Patterson.
Among the commitments, $20 million for 12 sets of overtaking lanes on the Buckets Way, starting from the Port Stephens end, as well as $6 million for the proposed Nelson Bay to Fingal Bay bypass and $20 million for upgrading roads between Raymond Terrace and Dungog. Labor candidate for Patterson, Jim Arneman, responded by saying that Mr Baldwin has had 11 years to improve these roads. What has he been doing all this time? He's also invited his Liberal rival to a debate on health. Mr Baldwin described the challenge as a cheap publicity stunt.
Well, let me say to you that Mr Arneman is arrogant. He puts it out in the media before he comes to my office to talk about a debate. I'll tell you what I'll do. When Julia Gillard accepts the next debate from Tony Abbott, I'll debate Mr Arneman.
As for the venue for the campaign promise, some councillors labelled the use of Port Stephens Council and the Mayor's involvement as inappropriate, but welcomed the funding.
Anger is growing. Residents in Lochinvar's Winders Lane are the latest headed for a showdown with the ARTC. They say their concerns are not being heard.
The noise is just unbelievable.
I had ARTC testing in my property at 55 decibels.
Them saying we're not affected. They're not walking to our homes. They're not talking to us.
The third rail line will go straight through this couple's front yard. They've been offered money for their land, but not their house.
The boundary will be about 47 metres from our house.
It's just going to feel like as though you actually got the train right in your kitchen.
Across the road, it'll get within 25 metres of the McInerney's. And up the hill, the story's the same. The Watsons are hardly looking forward to having a train go past every 8 minutes.
We need a noise wall out here to make our lives livable.
But those funding the project are not making any promises.
I've got the ARTC working on it now, and I intend to have a meeting with the local residents,
who feel they don't have the weight to stop a train.
We're just a little number, and that's all that there is to it.
We're the ones that are left to suffer while the Rio Tintos and Extratas are off making billions of dollars in profit.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.
They're trailblazers for the hunter, Dr Nicholas Moncrief and Kylie Older. He's the first plastic surgeon to offer breast reconstructions to public patients at the Calvary Mater, while she was the first patient to benefit from the service.
There's a very big need for this service as it has not initially been done here before, specifically for breast reconstruction, and should be provided for all comers, not just people who can afford it.
2 years ago, Ms Older was diagnosed with aggressive breast cancer. She had a single mastectomy just a week and a half later.
Devastated, being a 35-year-old woman, young woman.
18 months on, Dr Moncrief carried out the reconstruction at the Calvary Mater.
They take the fat roll and they pop it up through your belly and they pop it out and make a breast. It was going to cost me $12,000 to go private, so it wasn't an option, and I don't think it's an option for a lot of women.
The scars are healing well, physically and mentally. Ms Older's now cancer-free, confident and able to wear whatever she likes.
My self-esteem is way, way high. I went back to work and I think it's terrific.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
A health and fitness expert, Associate Professor Phil Morgan, really throws himself into his work. Seen here with his daughters, he's demonstrating the kind of fun fitness techniques that have made Healthy Dads, Healthy Kids such a success.
We show that if you actually make a program just for dads, then they will sign up, make it dad friendly, but also we showed that dads can lose weight and then in turn become better role models for their children and influence their health behaviours.
The program has previously received local acclaim and now it's shone on the world stage, awarded for Best Research in Public Health and Policy at the prestigious International Congress on Obesity.
I mean, getting international recognition from an academic point of view might make governments, organisations stand up and say, hey, this research team's really doing some really good things. But also I think for families, when they hear that, here's this program that's got this international recognition, they may be more likely to sign up.
Healthy Dads, Healthy Kids started with community funding and is expanding with corporate sponsorship into the Upper Hunter region. Eventually, Phil Morgan would like to see it available to all families.
We know it works, we want to roll it out, and it's been recognised with this great award and we're really thrilled.
Has got some cartilage damage in his shoulder, possibly needs an operation, but we're going to go down a rehabilitation sort of couple of week process first before we sort of put him under the knife.
In 5 trips to Port Macquarie, the Jets have never scored a goal, let alone one. 2 players who are racing to be fit could have changed that statistic, as Sean Rooney teed up Joe Wheelhouse. Ruben Zadkovic is also desperate for match fitness, and he too went close to breaking the drought. In more positive news, Tarek Elrich continued his recovery from off-season groin surgery. He says it's no longer holding him back, and he'll be ready for round 1.
It's just good to finally get out there. You can train as much as you want, but the match fitness is what's most important, and I got 45 out, so hopefully I can keep going.
Overseas, and the Jets' Ben Kantarovski has led the young Socceroos to a win over the Korean Republic in the ASEAN Federation's Under-19 Championships. Closer to home, and there's plenty of movement on the NBN State League ladder. Edgeworth and West Wallsend took advantage of Western's loss to the Magic, with Hamilton now 4th. At Broadmeadow, it was first versus second last, but the Magic produced the best chances. Peter Haynes had several near misses, but his breakaway goal helped cause a big upset. Ranked 67 on the tour heading into the tournament, a win in Ohio could have eased Nick Flanagan into the top 25 and enhanced his chances of earning a promotion to the lucrative PGA Tour. Following a bogey on the first in the final round, Flanagan picked up birdies on 4 and 6 before grabbing another with this effort on the 7th. But the 26-year-old was left cursing missed opportunities. A birdie on 10 would have given him a share of the lead. Even with plenty of encouragement from his caddy and approach shots like this on the par 5 12th, Flanagan wasn't able to match American DJ Brigman, whose round of 7 under saw him move 11 places up the leaderboard to claim the title. Meanwhile, fellow Hunter golfers James Nitties and Nathan Green finished in a tie for 37th at the Canadian Open.
According to locals, the subway beneath Swansea Bridge is the hangout for a gang. Members call themselves the 2281s, after the suburb's postcode.
Well, look, I don't think that there's any doubt that there is a gang in Swansea.
Residents believe they're behind vandalism attacks, including the destruction at the Galgabba Point bushcare site. But even more worrying is the violence.
Immediate family have been bashed, and that we're worried, if you can't take your kids out past 9 o'clock.
Usually it's one of standover tactics or attempted assault or indeed assault.
But the member for Swansea also says locals shouldn't be alarmed.
I don't believe that Swansea is racked or amuck with gangs and violence and all those sorts of things. It's not.
Even so, there is plenty of concern.
You know, there's absolutely no police presence and the kids are just running amok.
I've heard that they've actually put rocks in socks and they throw rocks out from bikes.
It worries me that there's a police station around the corner that's never got anyone in it.
Today, the front doors of the Swansea station were locked. A sign asks visitors to contact Belmont Police. Mr Coombs says there's a 2-officer car which does cover the area.
Crime doesn't come to a police station.
But he added,
I think that there's a case for more police in total to be attached to the Lake Macquarie Area Command.
Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Port Stephens Council has jets. And now it appears Maitland Council has its own problem. Lochinvar residents have made plenty of noise about the proposed third rail line.
It's going to be disgusting. Can't sleep at night. There's heavy braking going on.
And a report going before Council tonight raises concerns about the line's impact on future developments.
The problem has been identified by the residents and the developers.
The state government has identified Lochinvar as a town on the move. Developer Hilton Grujon has snapped up this land for a French-themed residential village, while Stockland is considering creating 5,000 lots on this land, which stretches to the rail line. Council believes that could open up a Pandora's box of complications. The predicted rail noise, vibration and air quality, something a strategy to rezone the land hadn't taken into account. The Deputy Mayor says that leaves Lochinvar's future on hold, unless those building the line come up with adequate soundproofing.
If they do the right thing, we haven't got a problem. But if they don't do the right thing, then we could create problems for them too.
The Australian Rail Track Corporation says it will be consulting with residents and council on a case-by-case basis. Nat Wallace, NBN News.
Jeff De Silva is proof working throughout cancer treatment can help.
Kept me grounded, and gave me a focus, which I think if I didn't have that, I probably would have, gone under.
A nurse himself, Mr De Silva rarely missed a day on the job during his 6 months of chemotherapy and doesn't regret it one bit. And it's that sense of normalcy that many cancer patients crave.
Work and family life is normal. Being at home and perhaps not seeing people quite so much is not normal and can be quite isolating.
That's what prompted clinical care specialist Jackie Sterling to put together this booklet with the backing of the Calvary Mater Hospital. It provides a checklist for patients thinking about returning to work, as well as the physical effects and how to deal with the boss.
If you go to an employer and say, I can't do this, fix it, they're less amenable. But if you can offer some suggestions, it's taken on board much better.
The booklets will be offered to patients at the Calvary Mater and given to the Cancer Council and Leukaemia Foundation.
You know, people going through this sort of treatment, it's a big thing in your life. So if you've got something that, you know, it presents with a little bit of humour too, which is good, and you need that.
Kate Mitchell, NBN News.
After a hectic yet fruitless few weeks on the road, including that Golden Point loss in Townsville, the Knights head back to work tomorrow for a crucial 6 days of preparation.
Still got plenty of time. You know, really happy with the effort and the response and the rebound from the previous week at Canberra. But again, we need to sort of couple the effort with a bit of execution.
Given the serious injuries to James McManus and Ben Rogers, and with other players in doubt, there's a raft of changes to the team. Kurt Gidley has been pushed to halfback, giving Shannon McDonnell a chance at fullback. Con Mika comes into the second row, but there's a stack on standby as the team clings to faint finals hopes.
I think we've probably just got to put our head down and make sure that we're happy and proud of every performance that we have for now the rest of the year.
Although it's highly unlikely that Manly's Ben Farrer will be heading home to the Knights next season, Cessnock raised forward Joel Edwards will definitely be around. Recently rewarded with a new 2-year deal, he's also retained a place in the top squad this week.
He showed in the last 3 games that he's up to NRL standard. He's been consistent every game he's played, particularly defensively.
After a World Cup to remember and some sparkling trial form, Jeremy Brockie hasn't moved off the sidelines for more than a week as he recovers from a calf muscle tear.
You'd say anyone that's not training at the moment would be a question mark about, and certainly you don't want players not to be doing anything for a couple of weeks before the start of the season.
In a positive, fellow recruit Ruben Zadkovic continues to show ankle and wrist problems are just about behind him, and he's one of those the coach may gamble on come season kick-off on Friday week.
Circumstances are such that the season's upon us, and we might have to take a few risks.
The club took a plunge today on a deal that looks like a sure thing. It's formalised a strategic alliance with the Northern New South Wales Football Federation, and both are keen to make the most of that.
We want to take advantage, obviously, of their high-profile players. We know that participation in our sport is linked very much to kids wanting to emulate their heroes.
That will only help the Jets raise support in their own backyard, something needed in the wake of last year's crowd figures. While denying that prompted this move, the club admits increasing its profile at the grassroots sure can't hurt.
We need to play a more prominent role and assist the junior clubs and the players and the local development bodies, being NSWIS and Northern New South Wales.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.